Hello, everybody, and welcome to Zenatta Consulting's monthly webinar. This is our August webinar on Zoho CRM Plus. This is the 2021 product overview, and we're actually going to go in some detail on some of the differences between it and other products when it comes to some interface and those kind of things. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the webinar.
Very good. For those of you that are not familiar, CRM Plus is a bundle of applications that Zoho has put together, mostly around sales. So we're going to kind of go through each of these products, what we think of them, where they're at. The pricing on this is $57 per user per month if you pay annually, or $69 per user per month if you pay monthly. A lot of people ask us, well, what's the difference between this and Zoho One? The advantage on this product is Zoho One is, if you're paying monthly, is $110 per user per month. If you're doing basically, I don't want to have all my employees in it, I just want to pick and choose who's in it, you have that $110 per user per month price. If you are doing it where you're paying for everybody in your organization is in, well, then it's $44 per user per month, and that goes lower on the annual side for both of those. I think it's $95 and $37, something like that.
Yep.
For Zoho One. So bottom line, if everybody in your company is going to be a user with Zoho, then you want to go with Zoho One. If you're picking and choosing, this suite of apps is a sweet spot for a lot of companies. And so rather than having to pay the 110, a lot of people will just do this at the 69, maybe add a couple other users in. That becomes kind of the big differentiator when looking at these kind of things. So when deciding if you should choose between Zoho One or CRM Plus. And with that, we're going to kind of dive right into the apps. And for those of you that have ever watched our Zoho One 2021 review, this will be a little familiar. We're going to break it down the way Zoho breaks these applications down into the various categories. So we'll kick it off with sales. And of course, the core functionality, Tyler, is Zoho CRM.
So yeah, as you know, most Zoho users know, the CRM kind of ends up being your home base for most of what you're going to be doing in Zoho, especially around sales and marketing. It's no different with CRM Plus. So we'll talk about all these various other applications like campaigns and SalesIQ and SalesInbox, but really those are all built around and on top of the CRM. This is where you're going to do your lead capture, right? So all of your forms are going to be routing here. You're going to be setting up your tasks and your auto response emails to those leads. Leads end up being converted into your deals, where now you kind of have qualified them. You're moving them through your pipeline, tracking all the different dollar amounts and estimated revenue in that pipeline. Of course, it's also where you're going to manage all the companies and accounts that you're doing business with. Of course, grouping them into various segments and things like that so that you can do some marketing to them later. And, oftentimes we find that it ends up being the main place where a lot of automation is going to happen. Other applications can be automated as well, but, you find contract sending, automation in terms of posting invoices to maybe some other systems and things like that go around sales. That's all going to run through here. It's definitely an application that we love. It's one of Zoho's best. And so, of course, that's got to be included with CRM Plus. No surprise, given the name.
Yeah, and it's a couple of things to note here. We have a webinar, 2021 CRM overview. We'll have some links to that at the end. You want the deep dive on Zoho CRM, watch the webinar again. We've actually created a playlist we'll talk about on our YouTube channel, YouTube/Zenatta. And it's we added to this playlist, basically we're calling it the CRM Plus playlist. And it basically all of the apps, all the webinars, and each and every single one of these apps will be available there. And we do want to point out that this did win the Zenme last year. So every year we basically have a whole bunch of awards around all the various categories that Zoho has. All the subscribers to our newsletter, listeners to the show, everybody votes on these. And it's not a surprise, but in sales and marketing application, basically Zoho CRM was the winner of the Zenme last year as well. So also in this category, and this is one, gosh, I feel like we're conflicted about in so many ways, Tyler, Zoho SalesInbox.
So SalesInbox, it's an interesting tool. It's important first to differentiate it from Zoho Mail. So Zoho Mail is a standalone email client. You can actually host your MX records there and do everything via Zoho Mail. SalesInbox is kind of like an inbox tool that you could plug Zoho Mail into, but you could also plug, Gmail, Outlook, really any email client that you can set up in HiMap. And really what it does is it organizes your inbox based on what it's related to inside of the CRM. So you're thinking, emails that are related to deals. So maybe you sent someone out a quote via the deal record and they responded, right? So that's going to go into the deals category. Maybe looking at contacts and leads, maybe you've sent out some of your, initial outreaches. Hey, I'd love to get on a call with you. And they're responding to those. That's going to roll into your contacts and leads section. Then you have these two other sections, which are basically for things that aren't a part of the CRM. So people that are just not a contact or a lead, as well as emails from colleagues. So people that have that same domain as you. It's a tool that we don't find ourselves using a lot. We don't use it internally. Oftentimes we don't really recommend that people use it unless you really want to manage your email like this, because that is what it does. You're not setting up a bunch of complicated filters and different tools for inbox management that we like. You can. So yeah, a rework for this is kind of in the works. They're going to be rebuilding this. They kind of know it's not the perfect spot right now, but it is good to know that it is there if this style of inbox management, makes sense for how you'd like to do things.
Yeah. And one of the things about this app, I don't believe, we do the CRM Zen show every week and we cover everything that happens in the world of Zoho. And I would say that in the last 2+ years, how many years have we done the show now? 3 years. In 3+ years of doing the show, there has not been one update to this application. Not one. So it's one of those things that I personally love this app. If it would just clean it up a little bit, give us a little more functionality, an amazing application. And it's kind of built right into the CRM. I love to be able to look at your deals, who's not in the CRM. Well, you probably want to add them to the CRM. And by the way, you can one click from within this. It's got some super, super nice features. Zoho, get it going. Make something happen here. You've got news. If you've heard that there's an update coming on this, I haven't heard anything on that. So I'm gonna. Did you see something in one of the channels?
It was in one of the Connect portals. Yeah, I know it's on their radar.
Oh wow, that's exciting. That's exciting. All right. And then we'll move on to the marketing apps that are included in CRM Plus. And with that, we're going to actually start with Zoho Campaigns. There's kind of a lot going on here. So Zoho Campaigns is currently included in CRM Plus. Eventually, Zoho Campaigns is, I believe, going to be replaced with marketing automation application, or they're going to add both to this. For those of you that don't know, Zoho Campaigns and Zoho Marketing Automation, these are two applications that basically allow you to send newsletters, do drip campaigns, right back to the CRM, do scoring, put people from one journey into another journey. I mean, there's just so much that you can do with these two applications. They are extremely similar, and Zoho seems to be heading down a road of they're going to make Zoho Campaigns strictly almost a newsletter type of application, and then marketing automation is going to be much more. They have promised that when they do make that change, that the bigger one, marketing automation, is going to end up inside of CRM, as CRM Plus. But at this time, they actually made that change. Was it earlier this year, February?
Earlier this year, and then they rolled it back. So they're kind of putting some finishing touches on that as before they make the full cut over.
But both are great applications. Right now, if you get it, you just get, actually, I shouldn't say that. Both Zoho's Campaigns, I think, Tyler, we consider this to be a very good application. It does journeys, it does, SMS currently, it does quite a lot of things. If you're looking for a super robust platform, that's their marketing automation. Unfortunately, we can't quite recommend it right now. It's just been kind of a little broken, but they're putting a ton we know they've got a ton of work into this. There's a lot of announcements. There's a lot of stuff going on. This product's been, I think, out in the market for at least 2.5 years. They've listened to everybody. They've kind of pulled it back. They're making all the changes that need to be done. So I'm excited to see this change, where either the merger of marketing automation and campaigns, or, separation of these products so they make sense. But either way, this one ends up in CRM Plus at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting with marketing automation as well. And now this isn't the case quite yet, but what they're also going to be doing is, some of these web-focused components of marketing automation, right? Kind of goal tracking on your website and things like that are actually going to be replaced by PageSense and SalesIQ. Those are going to kind of roll into marketing automation, where it'll become more of an umbrella product. So web tracking powered by SalesIQ, email campaigning powered by Zoho campaigns. So they're going to roll that out. So this won't show up in your CRM Plus quite yet, but it will once they make all of those changes. They're just going to include that.
Yeah, and the plan is by the end of the year. This has been a bit delayed. COVID has really caused problems globally. It's also caused some major problems in India, still is. So there's been some delays in this, but I do expect to see this by the end of the year, hopefully, and we'll have that change in. And also in this group, we have Zoho Social. A very good application for managing all of your social media. If you're not familiar, again, check out our webinar on Zoho Social, check out our webinar on Zoho Campaigns. We have a webinar on every single one of these that you can look at. But this really, you can schedule your social media, you can respond to your social media, you can monitor all of your social media activity. You can collaborate on your social media accounts. If you are familiar with Hootsuite, this is very much just like Hootsuite and allows you kind of that full central dashboard, single pane of glass into everything that's happening in your social media world.
It also comes with a couple little specific features that we find a lot of people using. A good example would be if you're running any Facebook lead forms, right, where people are actually able to submit a form via Facebook. Well, Zoho Social can actually publish those for you and then write the respondents into the CRM directly as leads. There's kind of a couple of things that if you are heavily using social media for marketing, you get some extra tie-ins here using Zoho Social while it's integrated to the CRM.
All right. And then that takes us to Zoho Survey, which we realize is the only app in this group we actually haven't done a webinar on, which we will. So Zoho Survey, if you are familiar with SurveyMonkey, you will be familiar with Zoho Survey. It allows you to send surveys out to your clients. It is integrated extremely well into Zoho CRM. So you can do a lot there. You can actually send surveys from the CRM. It'll know who you sent them to. You can pre-fill fields inside the survey based upon data that's inside the CRM. It's got very nice reporting. All in all, we give this app a yes. We think it's great. And, that's Zoho Survey. And they continually improve this app. I like it a lot.
Yeah, we found more and more as well, some of the power here with this application and being able to trigger functions when surveys are submitted. Could go down a whole rabbit hole on that, but it is very robust in terms of what you want to have happen once a survey actually is submitted. Last but not least, it also has an integration into campaigns. So if you wanted to send out a survey, but maybe you wanted to send it to 50,000 people, where the CRM email limits might fail you, you can actually tie this directly to a campaign and send it out that way.
And before we move on, kind of the cousin of Zoho Survey is Zoho Forms. And Zoho Forms is not included in CRM Plus. It's kind of, I think from a sales and marketing perspective, it's the only missing app. We've talked about this before. So if you do CRM Plus, at the end of the day, you're probably going to want to get Zoho Forms. Although you can make Zoho Survey kind of work, Tyler, in place of Forms. But I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the product difference between surveys and forms is that forms are more optimized to be, embedded on a website, embedded on a page. Surveys are a little more optimized to be sent out via an email, via an SMS, right, with some pre-filled data. That being said, yeah, you could just grab an embed from a Zoho Survey and use it as your contact us form. So, you won't need forms unless there are particular integrations. An example would be, Zoho Forms has a great integration into Google Ads. So if you wanted to capture things like your UTM parameters, that's going to be pre-built inside of Zoho Forms, whereas you'll have to get a little bit fancy if you want to do that inside of Survey. So you'll find little integration differences between the two applications.
Yeah. And Zoho Forms is not that expensive, but I think at the end of the day, worth it. I think you're going to want to track your stuff. And whereas SalesInbox has had virtually no development done over the last few years, our next application is a juggernaut. And the improvements that are made in this on seems like a weekly basis are just amazing. And that's Zoho SalesIQ. I don't even know how to describe this product.
Yeah, it's kind of
so
a
unique.
yeah, it's a web engagement platform. And so there are two primary things that it does. The first one is visitor tracking. And it's important to know that it does visitor tracking on a unit basis. So there's an application that's not included with CRM Plus called PageSense. So sometimes it gets a little confusing of which one of these is doing what. PageSense is giving you full page analytics, like how far do people scroll? Where is the clicks on like a heat map basis? Whereas SalesIQ gives you the data that this visitor with this IP address visited these 4 pages and spent, 10 seconds on each of them. So if you're looking for some of that like unit basis reporting on how people are interacting with the site, SalesIQ can provide that for you. And then over and above that, the kind of second thing that it does is a full live chat experience. So you can have, sales reps, customer service reps, anyone at your company plugged into a chat. So have you ever seen those little widgets or pop-ups generally in the bottom right of a page where you can click it and chat directly in? That's what SalesIQ is going to provide. The last little cool thing that they rolled out recently was a codeless way to actually build chat bots, which we found has been just fantastic. So if you wanted to do a little bot that pops up in 6 seconds and says, hey, are you a new customer or someone that's already existing, and you want to route them to the right person to take that chat, you can build that here inside of SalesIQ with minimal to no coding required.
And the integrations with both CRM and Desk are extremely good. If you get that cookie on a customer site, it's going to actually track every visit they've ever made to your website inside the CRM. You'll see it, how long they spent, what the last page they were at. I mean, just a whole lot of actionable data that can then be scored. It can then be pushed out to your sales team or your marketing team. So a lot of actionable data here. A big application, a lot of features. And check out our webinar on SalesIQ if you want more details on that, but a great application. And that takes us to support. And so Tyler, let's run down Zoho Desk.
So Zoho Desk, this is going to be the equivalent to a Zendesk or a Freshdesk. It's basically a place for inbound tickets to come in via email, via phone calls, via forms on your website. And basically a ticket surmounts to a actionable item that someone on our team needs to address. Common example of a ticket would be if you are a SaaS company and someone needs to reset their password, they don't know how to do it. Maybe they submit a ticket and that comes in here for you to respond to. You can really think about it in its most simplest sense, kind of like a shared email inbox where you're able to track emails based on status, based on time spent working on them. You're able to do internal commenting here with Desk. Then the other element with Desk is a full knowledge base. So if you wanted to create some self-help materials on your website, maybe you get a lot of tickets about how to reset your password. So you want to make an article and post that on your website about how to do that exact thing. You can all do that and host that through Zoho Desk.
Yeah, great application. I think this one we deploy a lot. Again, we have a full webinar on this. I think it's the most popular webinar we've done so far. And we take you through everything you need to have to set up Zoho Desk. But again, with CRM Plus, this is kind of full sales marketing support. That's what they're trying to give you here. So you've got the basic apps to drive all of those features. And I, love this app. It gets better and better, constant state of improvement. There's a lot going on there. And that brings us to our collaboration applications. And you also in CRM Plus get Zoho Projects, full project management tool. If you're familiar with Microsoft Projects, this is the closest analogy to that. I think this is a full-blown big project management tool. Zoho has a couple. Zoho Projects is one. Zoho Sprints is another. That's kind of agile development, very similar to Jira. But this is If you want to track every single thing in a project, you want to have milestones, you want to have timesheets associated with it, you want to have external users associated with your projects, you want to have task dependencies, you've got tasks that are the same, you want to build out big old email templates that are, project templates, you can just, repurpose those over and over again. An extremely powerful application, one that we use a lot.
And it ties, of course, directly into the CRM. So, you can go and say, hey, I've won a deal. I'm going to go ahead and click a couple times. And now I've made a project that's actually linked back to that deal. So maybe the salesperson can track completion of milestones without even really having to dig into projects. Again, we've mentioned this, not in this webinar, but I'm sure we did in others, that at the end of the day, project management tools come down to how you run projects. So if you don't follow kind of like a cascade or waterfall project management tool that kind of is built out of these Gantt charts, then this might not be the fit for you. But if you do a lot of work that is repeatable and is based on timelines and deadlines, projects might be a great fit. And then you would start to benefit from the integrations back to the CRM as well.
And then we have the business process app. This is how Zoho bundles them together. And this is one of Tyler's favorite applications and has become one that we probably deploy for almost every single client. Another ZenMe Award winner, Zoho Analytics.
So analytics, you can think about, it's like the equivalent of a Power BI or a Tableau. The beautiful thing about analytics is that it has pre-built connectors to all of these other applications that we're talking about. So you can just very easily pull in CRM, Desk, Projects, SalesIQ, any of these applications into one reporting suite and actually report on them together. One of the really nice things about it is that a lot of those applications actually will store a key from another that lets you line up the data very easily. So an example would be, maybe you have customers in the CRM, and under the CRM account, you're tracking their industry. And you've got tickets over inside of Zoho Desk, and you want to answer the question, which industries are generating the most support work for us per client, right? So now you have this data that's in two different warehouses, right? In the CRM and in Desk. Analytics basically allows you to pull all of that into one place, line everything up, and then answer some of those questions that might spread across the various applications that you're using.
Yeah. And more, we are doing amazing things with analytics. You can actually use it to sync between various applications. You can improve some of Zoho's additional syncing, embedding reports, reports that are viewable by your clients. It just goes on and on and on. And they have just improved the connectors on this over the last couple of years. So you virtually can connect any Zoho app, almost any outside application. I don't know. It goes on and on. I think, it's surprising how versatile Zoho Analytics has become and how much we're doing with it.
Absolutely.
All right. And we covered this a little bit, but the pricing again is $57 per user per month if billed annually, and then $69 per user per month if you're going to go pay for it on a monthly basis. And with that, we're going to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty and some things that set it apart. I do want to answer one question that was asked earlier. It's like, what's the difference between CRM Plus and the CRM included with Zoho One? None. They are both the enterprise editions. There is absolutely no difference between them.
Yeah, each of the applications here are just going to be the enterprise versions of the standalone applications. And if you were to move, for example, let's say you only had CRM and you wanted to upgrade to CRM Plus, your exact instance of the CRM would stay exactly how it is, all the data. You would just add on the rest of these applications.
Yeah. It just moves right on over. So, alrighty, and we'll get all the questions at the end, but I wanted to address that one because it was kind of out there. So, and with that, Tyler, why don't you take us through some interface and settings?
Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to kind of walk through a little bit of the view and what you'll see when you're working within CRM Plus, just to highlight kind of how you get around and how you would interact with the system. So first, I'm going to go through and kind of just show the settings that are specific to this. We do want to highlight on this. We're not going to dig into all of the various settings within each of the applications, or we'd be here for many hours. So with all these other applications, CRM, desk, projects, campaigns, we have separate webinars that actually dig into them in detail. All of those, again, would be on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Zenatta. So today we're just really going to focus on what CRM Plus looks like and how you get around within those admin settings. So right out of the gate, when you open up CRM Plus, the first thing you're going to want to notice is over on the left-hand side, you actually have a navigation bar that will get you to any of the various applications. So a little bit different than with standalone Zoho apps. With Zoho One now, they have all the way in the top left, the little box you can click on to kind of move from application to application. But here in CRM Plus, they kind of build it just all into this sidebar here. So you're able to quickly get from CRM to SalesIQ to desk and so on and so forth. To actually get into some of the additional things here, down at the bottom left, we have our recent items. This is actually something that is unique only to CRM Plus in that inside of our recent items, it'll actually show us things related to any of the applications. So here we're sitting inside of an account called Acme Plumbing. We see that we have that CRM account in one of our recent items, but also in those recent items is a desk ticket that we just looked at. So that doesn't really exist anywhere else. Even within Zoho One, any of your recent items are going to be application specific. Now, I would assume if you're watching this recording in the future, that might not be true now. They're going to add that eventually to navigate to recent items across all of Zoho One. But just as it stands right now, this is kind of a little bit of a unique feature inside of CRM Plus.
And Zoho One has in beta right now, basically a similar feature where you have the menu bar running down the left-hand side here. They don't have this feature in that right now if you're trying out the beta version of it. And of course, with 50 applications, you kind of get to pick and choose what you're putting on the side over there. But they currently don't have it. But this is, like you say, a really cool feature, as is the next one.
So the next one here is your favorites. This one super useful for navigating quickly from application to application. So an example would be, you might have a dashboard inside of the CRM. And so to get there from desk, you'd have to click CRM, then dashboards, then click on that specific dashboard. But if you know you're going there all the time, you can go ahead and just add it as a favorite here in the bottom left and get there quickly. So in this case, we've favorited one of those accounts. Maybe we want to favorite this ticket to just keep it top of mind until it gets closed out. So you're able to just do that by on any of these pages, clicking that plus in the top right, and it'll go ahead and open up the ability to add that item to your favorites list. And so now we have our ticket here within desk. As you'd expect, they're going to group that by the application that it's from. So we've got a favorite there from the CRM and then a favorite from desk in their own little lists within that window. So now we're going to jump into how to get around in the settings for the CRM Plus package. As is the case with more and more Zoho applications, I don't want to say all, I'm sure there are a couple little stragglers, but in the top right, you're going to have that cog up in there under the little red box. So if we open up that cog, we're going to notice a couple things that'll change. So when we open that up, we'll go to a page here where across the top of the page, we have all of the different settings now for these different applications. So before, when we're in the CRM, that top bar is showing our leads, our contacts, and our accounts. So those are actually the workspaces in the CRM. Whereas when we jump here, now we're looking at the setup page for the CRM, and we can navigate to the setup pages of any of those other applications just by clicking across the top bar. So if we start here in the CRM, we can click over onto desk, and now we're looking at the settings for desk. So kind of a little quicker way to get around if you want to set up, maybe you have a workflow that needs to go between a couple different modules. You can just pull up the general settings and get around really quickly to configure everything that you need. Now in this, we're going to dig a little more into the CRM admin panels, because again, we've kind of done webinars that'll walk you through the settings for any of those other applications. So the couple things that you're going to want to set up when you first get started with CRM Plus is, of course, going to be your organization info. So you're going to want to set up the company name, your website, your phone numbers, any address information if you'd like to store that within Zoho. To do that, up in the top right, we can just open up that edit button and make any of those changes that we need. That just kind of pulls up a little form that you can use to enter that information. Next, we can go ahead and look at kind of a top down of any of our applications. So we can see which ones do we have turned on, because you don't have to have them turned on for every single user. So here we're basically looking at the applications, how many users we've got active in each of those. And from there, you can click in and see those users themselves. Lastly, and I'm skipping users here because we're actually going to circle back to that. Brett's going to show you how to add users, because there's a couple little particulars that you'll want to be aware of as you're actually going through and setting up a new user. But of course, under the subscription tab, you can see, how many seats do you have purchased? How many do you have remaining, right? So if you're going to onboard 5 or 6 people, you might pull this up and see, okay, I've actually got 2 extra seats, so I only need to upgrade a handful more to get all of them added. Lets you know your billing cycle, how many users you've got, where your storage limits are. It's actually a really nice page. Normally, you'd have to dig into each of these applications and find the different submenus where all of this lives. So if you are kind of an administrator,
I would love this in Zoho 1,
yeah,
Tyler.
to be great in Zoho 1.
It really would.
But it gives you just a top down so that you can see, hey, I know we're going to import this list of, 750 contacts. I want to make sure I can pull all of them into campaigns. So I can just jump in here and in one page know, okay, I've got plenty of storage in the CRM to run that import. And then I've got, more contacts available in campaigns than I need. So I'm good to go. I don't need to make any extra purchases here. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Brett. We're going to go through this next section, relatively quickly. We want to just show what it's like to add a user, because each of the different applications will ask you sometimes for different things, the profile, the role, the department that they need to be in. So we want to just walk through that for you so that if you're setting this up later, you've got a nice little reference.
Yeah, slightly different than all of the others. So it's completely different. If you're adding this on an individual app basis, it's completely different. And this is completely different than Zoho 1 as well. There's kind of a whole different methodology here. It's just a different layout, a different UI in getting things. So all you're going to do is click on add a user, and then you're going to go ahead and put in the user's name up here. And then you're going to go from application to application. You'll select it, you'll do your roles, and you'll do your profiles. And on SalesIQ, you'll set it up. By the way, you do need to check the departments on these. So make sure that you make sure all the departments are checked as you go through. Under desk, again, you'll set up what are they? Are an agent, an admin, a line agent, custom. What do they have access to? And you'll again have to select all of the departments. Under projects, again, you're going to set up the roles, and you're going to set up each one of these. And if you don't check it, you're not adding a person to this. So if you're basically putting someone in here and you just want to say, great, they only have access to 3 applications, you can do that. And whatever you set them up with is what they're going to have access to. So you see the same on campaigns. You'll choose your roles. Again, choose everything. Under social, give them their user role, select all the brands that they're allowed to go through and choose as well. Under survey, you're going to have to choose the account that they have access to. Again, give them that. And then under analytics, you're going to choose what they are. And if you're going to make them, you want to make them a workspace admin so that they can have those kind of administrative privileges in the workspaces. And again, you're going to want to select all of that. And once that's done, the user is added, and they will get a nice little email telling them that they have been added and to accept the various applications. And that is pretty much all there is. There is one thing I do want to point out that's important. Up in the URL bar up top, you'll notice it says crmplus.zoho.com. And what we find often is if people are on other versions and they switch to this is the only one that has that rather unique URL. If you're a larger company, we see this where oftentimes they'll downgrade because maybe they decide they just want a couple apps, but people have this saved. And every time they go to it, it's going to ask them if they want to upgrade. And if they move to Zoho 1 and they do this CRM Plus, it's going to ask them if they want to upgrade. Not sure it's an upgrade at that point in time, but you can end up with people switching. So if you're switching from one to the other, you need to tell everybody in the company, just delete all your bookmarks and start over, because there's a whole new set. It's really just one set of one bookmark they need now, crmplus.zoho.com. And with that, I want to talk a little bit about some resources to kind of help you through more of this. So if you head over to Zenatta Consulting, we actually have a resource guide here, and in it, you can click on bundles. And I had a question from Ivan, who wanted to know, why not just get Zoho 1 at $37 per user per month? Well, the reason for that is that's annually. It's $45 if you pay monthly. Is that most people that are picking up CRM Plus, they may be large organizations and they just want a small subset. They just want it for their sales department. That's it. And so in that case, with Zoho One, you actually would be paying $90 per month annually on the flexible user, or 105. So it's much more expensive than CRM Plus if you are just doing a subset of your employees and you don't need all those apps. And oftentimes people will say, well, great, I want to take, I want CRM Plus, but I'm just going to add in a couple apps. And at the same time, you may find that that is cheaper as well. For example, if you took that, you go to our overall Zoho apps page here. By the way, here's where we tell you what we think of an application. Is it a yes? It's absolutely great. It's best in class. Is it a maybe, or is it a no? And with this no, we'll talk about that in just a minute here. But also, if you look, you can click into any of these and it's going to tell you what's the pricing, what it's all about. So, I mean, you can get, Zoho forms for, $10 per user per month, and you can just buy one user. Maybe you just want to have one user that's using it. So you're not paying. So by doing some of these pick and choose kind of things, you can kind of tighten it up a little bit, and depending on what your budget is, it's a good way to go there as
Yeah,
well.
we find a big one there is, maybe at your company, you are on QuickBooks and you're not leaving QuickBooks, right? So if you looked at Zoho One, it's like, well, our whole accounting team is never going to need to go into Zoho One because we're not going to move to Zoho Books, right? So if we were to do that all employee pricing, and it honestly, it comes down to a cost benefit. Sometimes we'll talk to someone and they're like, hey, we've got these 10% of people that are never going to touch Zoho, but it still is actually more cost effective for them to go with Zoho One and just basically have these, empty licenses for those people. Or maybe, realistically, you end up finding use cases. Maybe you want them to end up in analytics, or you want them on Click. But if you have a lot of business software that's working really, really well for you, and you just need to fix some of these sales and marketing aspects, that's where we find that CRM Plus can be a great fit.
And also, if you click into any of these icons for the applications, we're also all of our resources, and we've got a lot of resources. We have a lot of articles, guides, and videos. They go on and on and on about all of the various products, and we give you kind of deep breakdown. So some good resources there, and also a way to kind of go through and figure out, what do you want? Do I need CRM Plus, and then I want to put some other bundles? Kind of all the pricing in one place. You might want to look there. And also, as we talked about, if you go to youtube.com/Zenatta, all of our videos are there as well. So everything we've got on every product. And as you can see, except for books here, 5 of these top viewed videos are all part of CRM Plus. So this is where you get your product overview. And we even went ahead and created a playlist for CRM Plus. So you've got every single thing we've got on CRM Plus here. And so all of these,
that would include webinars and trainings, tutorials, best practices, kind of each of those various applications that are rolled into that bundle.
Yeah, everything's here. Everything we've done, you've got it right here from a YouTube video perspective. So check those out. It'll give you a lot more information. As Tyler was saying, there's just not enough time in one webinar to go through each one of these in detail, but we did take the time and kind of made that happen. All right, and with that, we'll go to our Q&A. So what have we got, Tyler?
Yeah, so we've got one question. Why are we using Zoom instead of Zoho webinars? So that kind of gets into, with that yes, maybe, and no list on our website. I think Zoho Meetings, which kind of hosts webinars now, is sitting in the maybe column. For us, the big thing with it is recording quality. All of our webinars we record and then post up onto YouTube, and there have always just been issues with the video quality on that, especially when you're sharing. Sometimes the audio quality is not quite as crisp as well. So if you're just doing some quick meetings with your team or with some of your clients, Zoho Meetings is actually really solid. We love the UI. I think it's getting better and better, but they just have some recording quality issues where, because we want to post this on YouTube, it's got to be at least 1080p. The audio has to be, as clear as we can get it. So we find that for us, we just are a little stuck on Zoom webinars. But when they change those, or when they fix those last little kind of remaining issues there, we're going to move over in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we 50, 60, 70, 100 people show up for a live webinar and thousands and thousands and thousands watch it afterwards. And so you want that to be really high recording across the board. So that's our only reason for that. Um, really, from a webinar perspective, that's it. It's just
Mhm.
recording. And so
Yep.
once Zoho gets that fixed, which they promise they are, that's going to be really helpful as well. And then we have another question: is it possible to set up a new call for new clients? Wanted to know how to get the most out of their Zoho website. You can set that up with us if you go to basically, if you just go to Zenatta.com and you click on book a meeting, it's going to take you to a form. You can fill it out. You get a half an hour with me or Tyler, and that's free. We'll just kind of go through it, tell you where you're at, what you need to do, point you in some right directions. Maybe you hire us, you never know. But that's that's a possibility as well. It looks like that's it. Any other
Oh, we got a
questions?
couple that are trickling in the chat. So are there any templates or recommendations for specific companies or industries? So for example, real estate or equipment finance company looking to use Zoho as a CRM. What I'll say is yes and no. So I'll use real estate as an example. So, real estate is an industry that, we work a lot with. A lot of real estate agents, I think, end up finding the CRM as a pretty low cost and pretty customizable way to, run their practice. You can use some templates in the sense that, when we engage with a real estate agent, we're pretty confident that we're going to end up building a custom module to store all their properties, because in the majority of our engagements that we've done with real estate agents, we find that that's valuable. But we try not to work too much from templates, because two different real estate agents can have pretty different processes and pretty different things that are important to them. Where, you might have a template for the overall flow, but a lot of the nitty gritty, you really do want to customize to your business, because, you're not the same as other people that are competing in your industry.
Yeah, and then Alan asks, who is John Galt? I'm sorry, who is Zenatta? Alan, we are we're a premium Zoho partner, one of the top partners in the world, and all we do is Zoho and nothing but Zoho. So our team basically, there's no other. We do some work with Ring Central as it integrates with Zoho. But really all our entire team is dedicated to Zoho and integrating other companies' products into Zoho for you, building out implementations that, basically fill up what you're talking about. We've done so many. We've got, I think we're coming up on 500 different implementations. So we've kind of seen it all, and we can really streamline that process. So as a Zoho partner, our goal is to make sure that you get the most out of your Zoho install. And, we say we make Zoho work for you. And I think the key in that at the end of the day is giving you a system that your employees really want to use, but at the same time, you get all of the information out of it that you need. And is there one more question?
One question from Jeffrey, what user count do you feel we need to have to pick Zoho One over CRM Plus? It's not as much a user count as it is the ratio of users that you want to have access to the system. If you've got just your sales team that you need, and, a common one that we'll see is you've got a whole fabrication team, right? And they just don't need to touch Zoho, right? And you have the smaller sales team that does. And in that case, you'll find that you'll want to go over to CRM Plus. I know the break-even point used to be around 70% of the company or so, right, Brett? And at that point, you're probably best off just going with Zoho One. But the pricing changed recently. It might be a little different.
I mean, if you look at the overall pricing, it's pretty straightforward, right? So I think it's $105 for all employee, but it's only, it's 37 for all employee, right? And then 105 for pick and choose, or 44 for all employee, 105 pick and choose. So it's a 40. If you're in a Zoho One world at 42 employees, that's the changeover, right? In this case, you're paying $67. So if you're in a Zoho One world, it's somewhere around, if you had 100 employees, once you get to 50, 60, you start doing the math on the whole thing and you say, wow, I just might as well go ahead and switch to Zoho One. Right. So you can kind of run the numbers. It's pretty easy to look at that across the board. We have a question. Yes, Mike, a lot of mortgage officers, real estate, mortgage, the whole thing across the board. I think at this point, there's getting to be very little that we haven't seen one way or another. Yes, you can reach out to me for any specific questions over at Zenatta.com. I also want to point out over on Zenatta, we have an events tab. So not just our events, but man, there are a lot of events out there, and we try to grab each and every single one of them and put them on this events tab. Ones that Zoho does, one that other partners do, ones that we're doing. They're all kind of here. And that brings me, I have no idea. What are we doing in September? Are we doing Page Sense?
I'm doing Page Sense. That'll be a good one.
Page Sense. So our September webinar will be on Page Sense, which, as Tyler mentioned, is a rather cool application. And I think that's it, huh, Tyler?
Let's see. Oh, I think we got a couple more that snuck in here. Can you take information from the CRM and turn it into a report looking at deals, estimating leads? Absolutely. You can do that within the CRM reports themselves. Oftentimes that we find we end up wanting to pull it over to analytics, mainly just because you can report on more stuff at once. So an example would be if you're doing your estimating from a deal, you might want to pull a report on what's our close rate on deals where we included these two products on an estimate. Things like that you end up needing to pull into Zoho Analytics. Simpler reports like how many leads were converted last week, how many dollars do we have sitting in each stage. A lot of that can just be pulled directly within the CRM using their reports and dashboards.
Yes, and then a question, can Zoho CRM get integrated with QuickBooks? If you are using QuickBooks Online, there are some basic integration that is out there that Zoho provides. And you can
also build it.
More. You can
also build it
much
custom.
more nuanced. Yeah. The APIs are open, so it's easy to do that integration. If you're using desktop, there are some workarounds with that, but you need to have a desktop client or server-side client that's going to do those kind of things. That's usually not kind of a live update. You usually see that done just kind of occasionally. And then we're asked where we're located. We're located all over the place. We're in the Western Hemisphere. We've got, I think, want to say 14, 15 people in the United States, spread out across all time zones, one in Canada, one over in Germany, a couple down in Brazil. So we're all over. And then we got one more that slipped in here, Tyler.
Liz, I will take that up with you later today.
Oh, I see. All right. And with that, we are going to call it a day. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, as we've always talked about, you can go over to Zenatta.com, drop us a line there, fill out that form. Also, the CRM Zen Show, all the episodes, everything is over at Zenatta.com/Zen. And that's basically our weekly show where we cover every single thing that happened in the world of Zoho. And then you can follow us on all of your social media sites. And of course, we want you to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at YouTube/Zenatta. And hit that subscribe button, mash that bell, whatever the YouTubers say. And then if you never want to miss, and then every week at 6 a.m., not only does the CRM Zen Show drop, but the basically our newsletter, which is every single thing that happens in the world of Zoho. So go to Zenatta.com/newsletter and subscribe to our newsletter, and you will never miss out. Again, thanks everyone so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.